Is it time for President Biden to replace Merrick Garland as Attorney General? Let's talk about it in today's video. Hi, I'm Mike Greiner. I'm a lifelong Democratic activist who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. I'm also a lawyer and an academic, and I'm here to help you stand up to the BS of the MAGA crowd. So January 6th, yes, it keeps coming up. And in response to a question my wife keeps asking me, the good news is that, in fact, the January 6th committee from Congress is going to start holding public hearings next week, starting Thursday, January 9th, with a primetime hearing at 8 p.m. This is expected to be the first of many hearings, and the committee leadership says that they will be bringing in players to testify who we haven't heard from before publicly and who have explosive information to share. As committee member Jamie Raskin from Maryland pointed out, quote, "The hearings will tell a story that will really blow the roof off the House." And in fact, at least one player who's expected to testify is former Attorney General William Barr, who leads us into the real point of today's commentary, which is that he bent over backwards to support the Trump administration. And the most prominent example of that, of course, is his appointment of John Durham as special counsel to try to investigate and find evidence of some inappropriate activity that took place leading up to the FBI investigation of the Trump campaign's link to Russia. Now, last week, the Durham investigation suffered another major setback when a jury in a criminal case voted unanimously to find not guilty Michael Sussman, one of the only two people Durham has charged with any crimes in association with this claim, the other of whom pled guilty to a minor claim and got probation. But this is after 3 years of investigation and $3.8 million spent. This is quite a contrast with the last special counsel we heard so much about, Robert Mueller, who charged and convicted over 36 people in relation to the link between Trump and Russia, and only declined to file charges against Donald Trump because of a long-standing Department of Justice policy that you don't charge sitting presidents with crimes. That being said, the report made quite clear that he believed that Donald Trump had engaged in obstruction of justice in his efforts to stand in the way of the investigations into his link between his campaign and Russia. So Durham at this point has been a complete failure, wasting taxpayers' money on a fool's errand that Barr could only defend by saying that even though he hasn't convicted people, he's raised a narrative. In other words, he's basically added to this BS that the MAGA crowd have been spewing about some lack of evidence that Donald Trump is bought and owned by the Russians. But the problem is, now here we are about a year and a half into the Biden administration with Merrick Garland as Attorney General. And guess who is Durham's boss as a special counsel? That would be Merrick Garland, the Attorney General. You may recall that during the Mueller investigation, there was a lot of fear over the fact that Trump's various attorney generals could potentially fire Robert Mueller. So why is this ridiculous, baseless, and unproductive and expensive investigation just being allowed to continue on? It's time for Garland to take some steps and fire Durham and put an end to this fiasco. But is that too much to ask from the timid Garland, who really hasn't shown himself to be aggressive at doing, from what I can tell, much of anything? I mean, recently news was made with the fact that the Department of Justice indicted Peter Navarro for contempt of Congress for basically defying a subpoena from the January 6th Commission to come and testify. He now joins former Trump campaign manager Steve Bannon in facing criminal charges for defying the lawful orders of this committee. And yet what really should be the story from this whole situation is the fact that Navarro only faced these charges 3 months after they were first referred to the Department of Justice by the January 6th Commission back in March. And what's more is the Department of Justice has declined to charge Mark Meadows, Donald Trump's former chief of staff, who, as we know, was directly involved in a lot of the efforts to overturn the election in January 6th, including texting back and forth with the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, Ginny Thomas, and leading a fact-finding investigation to intimidate the vote counters down in Atlanta, Georgia. And that referral to the Department of Justice was made back in last December more than 6 months ago. Meadows joins Dan Scavino, former deputy chief of staff to Trump, who's also was referred to the Department of Justice for his lack of cooperation back last March, along with Navarro. As a result, while we're all cheering the fact that Peter Navarro is going to be facing charges that he is certainly deserving of, the bigger story should be just the level of timidity of the Merrick Garland Department of Justice in its inability to charge 2 other players who openly defied subpoenas from the January 6th Commission, and on top of that, who took months to decide to charge Navarro, who might have the easiest prosecution in history. I mean, he was sent a subpoena, he admitted he received the subpoena, and he openly defied it. How difficult is it to prove that he violated the law there? That should have been a no-brainer. And yet Merrick Garland took months to finally move forward on that. This is on top of the earlier issues that I'd raised about Garland, primarily including his unwillingness to charge Donald Trump or really any other senior officials in his administration with crimes related to the January 6th insurrection. So why is Joe Biden sticking by Merrick Garland? Frankly, I raised the issue when he was first appointed as Attorney General that I thought he was a weak choice for the position, especially given some of the other outstanding choices who were out there, such as Sally Yates, for example, the former deputy and then acting Attorney General who was actually fired by Donald Trump for her desire to actually follow the law. Imagine that. But Biden, to his credit, is a very loyal person. And I think he felt bad about the fact that Merrick Garland was offered that seat on the Supreme Court and never even got a hearing. You can see evidence of his loyalty in how he's treated Janet Yellen, the former Fed chair who was deposed by Donald Trump, but then elevated to Treasury Secretary by the Biden administration. The difference is Yellen is extremely competent and has shown herself to be a real asset to the administration over the last year and a half. The same cannot be said for Merrick Garland. The truth is that even loyalty has bounds, and Biden has demonstrated more than enough loyalty to Merrick Garland. Loyalty is a two-way street, and it's time for Biden to show Garland the door. Well, if you want to check out my earlier video about the failures of Merrick Garland, why don't you check it out over here? I've been a critic of his really since the day he was appointed to the Attorney General position, although I gotta tell you, he would have made a far better Supreme Court justice than the right-wing ideologues who Trump has appointed. I'll see you then. In the meantime, let's hope for continued progress. Thank you.